So I'm back for the last part of this activity for Unit 2 of the Online Teaching Workshop, and I'm going to talk about screencasting. Um, First thing, you've seen lots of screencasts. This is the fifth one in this activity. So I'm doing a screencast right now. I use them in my classes in many different ways, and as you saw on a previous slide, lots of your colleagues in online classes are using screencasts, and they are more and more and more popular. So it's now the number one thing as a coach. People are coming to me wanting to know. They want to know how to do them better, ways to use them, how to put them in their classes, etc. And I am more than happy to work with you one-on-one. I'm going to talk about how to screencast, give you some resources. It's easy. It's something you can do on your own, but you have me as a resource. There's also instructional design centers on each of the campuses, and you're more than welcome to drop in there and learn about screencasting. I'll also just tell you my own personal biases. There are lots of ways to engage students, to have students experience instructor presence. I happen to have just really latched on to screencasting. It's something I use a lot in my class, and I'll just tell you that I was a slow convert. I mean, I've been doing them for a while now, but I was not brand new to jump onto screencasting when it first became available. I was doing podcasts and audio, and I thought those things were great. Students liked them. One of our colleagues who used to work here, her name was Wendy Bailey. She's since moved on to another opportunity. She was teaching CTE courses in online and hybrid formats, and she was doing a lot of screencasting and doing action research on screencasting. In fact, if you want to read about Wendy's experience with screencasting, I will load her little video interview into the content area for Unit 2, so you can go in there and find it, along with a whole bunch of other resources. So Wendy was doing screencasting, and she was also testing screencasts that were just a screen and a talking voiceover, which was pretty typical when people were doing what we used to call narrated PowerPoints, right? We just want to show the PowerPoint, but PowerPoints really don't work very well as standalone tools for students, because normally we build PowerPoints as something to show in a class, and we don't just show the slides, right? We use the slides as a way to talk about the slides and to comment on the slides. So it's really probably not appropriate to load PowerPoint slides into your course and consider that standalone content. So you'll notice a PowerPoint I put in Module 1 of our online teaching workshop D2L site, but I only considered that a supplement to the parts of the PowerPoint that I actually showed in the screencasts for Unit 1 in the quiz area. So they're certainly useful, but they're not doing the same thing without the audio, right? I mean, the audio is really important. Wendy did some research where she would do some screencasts, well, two versions of the screencast, basically. Some where she would have a moving mouse and slides moving and her voice, and other versions with the little talking head in the corner. And, she really didn't want to put the talking head in the corner, but she wanted to know whether students liked the talking head, whether they would pay more attention, and I'll just cut to the chase. Students in her classes over many semesters were literally unanimous in preferring the talking head in the corner, and there's other research that backs that up. Seeing that face makes a difference. Now, I don't know that the face has to be there all the time, and I'm using Screencast-O-Matic, which is a website that I'm showing you. I'm on a website. This is screencastomatic.com, and if you want to check out Screencast-O-Matic, I'll talk more about it, or you can just do a Google search for Screencast-O-Matic and you'll find it right away. As it notes here, it is a fast, free screen recording tool. You can set up a free account and you can start screencasting immediately. You'll note that I have a professional account, which means I paid, I don't know, $10 or $15, and it gives you a few options that the free version doesn't. So if you end up really enjoying screencasting, it might be worth considering getting the pro version down the road, but I would say, practice with the free version. You still want to set up an account that lets you save your screencasts. But just to let you know, I'm doing a screencast using Screencast-O-Matic right now, and I can toggle between, the big Eric in the middle of the screen, or the little talking head in the corner, or I can choose, to make myself invisible if I want to. And so Wendy was really convinced, just from what her students said, that putting that talking head in the corner was really worth it. I asked her, do you like seeing your talking head in the corner? And she gave the same answer I'm going to give. No. I tend to try to look at the camera because then it looks like I'm looking at you. But I just don't usually watch my screencasts. I mean, these are for students, and if students like seeing the talking head, they will watch longer, if they attend to the screencast more, if they pay attention more. I am willing to put my talking head in the corner, even though I really don't enjoy seeing my face on camera. The research I've done in my own class, the learning community I teach with Carrie Mitchell, we have found the same thing. Students, number one, most students are watching most of the screencasts. So I'll just let you know that students will watch them. We're getting 75% or more of our students to watch most of our screencasts, and we do a lot of screencasting. So first things first, if you want to learn how to do screencasting, you will find some resources in the content module for Unit 2. Right here, where you are. Just link over to the content area and you'll see that stuff. One of the things you'll see there is a document called Eric's Guide to Screencasting using Screencast-O-Matic and YouTube. That's what I use. I create my screencasts using Screencast-O-Matic. I upload them to my YouTube account, and it is literally a one-click. I can't show you. I can't do a screencast and screencast myself doing it. So unfortunately, I can't show you. But once I've finished my screencast, there's literally a button on the side that says Upload to YouTube. And I click it, and then it just says type in the title. Do you want it to be public or unlisted? And it just does it automatically. Once you get that video in YouTube, it is super easy to get that embedded YouTube video anywhere in D2L, in content, in news, in a quiz, in an email, anywhere in a discussion, anywhere in D2L where you have access to the text box, which is almost anywhere. In feedback, you can either link to a screencast or you can embed the screencast. I like embedding and giving a link. I like embedding the screencast because students don't have to download anything. All they need to do is click play. Why do I like YouTube? Screencast-O-Matic will allow you to embed screencast directly from there. You can save your screencast at Screencast-O-Matic. Why do I go the extra step and use YouTube? A few reasons. Number one, Screencast-O-Matic is a great resource, but it is really a one-man shop. It's one guy who runs that website, and there's no guarantee that he will be around tomorrow or next week. All the videos that you've uploaded to Screencast-O-Matic could disappear, right, if he decides to close up shop and start doing something else. YouTube is owned by Google. It will be there. It will be there for a long time. YouTube has probably the best security of any site on the internet. So are your videos ironclad? No. But if you mark a video unlisted, the only way someone can see it is if you give them the unique URL. So it is impossible for someone to randomly stumble on a video that you've put on YouTube if you mark it unlisted. I mark all my videos for class unlisted. That way only students in my class can see them. Here's a couple other reasons to consider using YouTube. YouTube will auto-generate closed captions for your videos. Right now, they are not perfect enough to be ADA compliant, but I have done some testing, and I find that if I am articulate and speak reasonably slowly, I mean normally, but not super fast, the closed captions that YouTube creates are very accurate, 90% accurate, 95% accurate, and I can go in and edit them. So as of right now, you're not required to create captions and transcripts for videos, but as we move forward and we think about accessibility for students, we're going to look for ways to make sure that our videos can be captioned, and since YouTube captions them automatically, that gets us 90% there, right? A little bit of editing, a little bit of tweaking, and you've got your transcripts. Here's the other thing. Google is constantly updating its artificial intelligence, right, that listens to your screencast and creates the captions. So my guess is, and if you're still teaching here in 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 years, I bet in 5 years, Google is going to have such good artificial intelligence that those auto captions are going to be nearly perfect. And they won't just work on new videos. It'll go back and recaption all of your old videos. I also really like the way YouTube lets me archive my videos, to search through them. I literally have now hundreds of videos that I've created over the last many years. So I'm confident that they'll be there all the time, that the security is pretty good, and I really like the auto captioning. And there are lots of other cool things that YouTube lets you do. One last thing I love about YouTube, and I don't make any money off of YouTube. YouTube will play on almost any device. So if you want your students to watch the videos, you want to put them up in a format that is as easy as possible for students to watch. If students can watch any videos, they can watch YouTube videos. They'll play on any browser, they'll play on a Mac, they'll play on a smartphone, pretty much anywhere. That's not the case with MP4s, it's not the case with Screencast-O-Matic videos. So lots of reasons you might want to use YouTube. You can read my guide to screencasting. I also have a screencast guide to screencasting. You can find that in the content area as well. Hang on. So I'm just going to take a few more minutes to show you what are some of the ways that people are using screencasts in their classes, in hybrid classes, and online classes, and flipped classes. Number one, this is something that Carrie and I do in our class. It's probably not the most common thing people do screencasts for, but I offer screencast feedback on some assignments in my online class, not every assignment. But when I want to give feedback to the whole class, I do a screencast, and I will look at a writing prompt or an activity in the class, work that students have done, individual work that students have done, and I create a screencast where I talk about the work that they've done. I want to recapture what I do in a live class, where before I hand back homework, I take 10 minutes. I literally will thumb through the homework. I'll talk about things that students said. I'll praise students for the good work they've done. I'll talk about the common misperceptions that came up in the homework. It's a way for me to validate the work that students did. I don't just hand back the homework. I let them know I read it. I thought there was some great stuff in there. Students love when I praise them by talking about an answer that they gave or a comment that they gave in homework. They don't even mind it when I say, 5 of you had a really common misconception, and let's talk about it. I mean, homework is formative after all, and I'll talk about the misperceptions that came out of the homework. This is a great way because, in online classes, often you're giving feedback to individual students. Whole class feedback via Screencast has been really effective. Students really like it, and it's super time efficient, right? Because in 10 minutes, I can give feedback on an assignment to the whole class in a way that they perceive as caring, as a way that seems personal, and that is really effective, that they'll actually watch. So it's a way to give feedback to students. That's one thing. Let's get out of here, and I'm not going to pause. I'll just go live and see if I can find a couple other things. So again, I'm going to look at my own class. I'll show you lots of other examples in the content area. So this is my live class that I teach with Carrie. This is an online learning community. So this combines English composition and ethics. And every week we do something called a midweek update. This is usually done on Thursday morning. And we sit down together and we do a 10-minute screencast where what did we do this week? Or this is last week's. How do students, we give them personalized feedback, but we found that students don't always know where to look, so we literally show them where to look, right, via screencast. We gave some comments on the open discussion and the writing prompts that they were working on. We talked about the discussions that were actually happening during the week. We talked about individual students, the great work they were doing. We encouraged other students to get in there. We gave advice on drafting Essay 1 because that's what students were working on. Carrie gave these personal anecdotes about her own writing, the anxiety that she feels when she's sharing her work with her peers as a way to allay the concerns students have, and more, right? So we do this every week. It's the kind of housekeeping you probably do in a live face-to-face class. It's a way to do it online. Students really, really, really like these midweek updates, and I'll give you a selfish reason. This feels like teaching. There are a lot of things in an online class that don't feel like teaching, but creating a screencast really feels like teaching because we get to talk, right? And teachers like to talk. So I'm looking at you. I really feel like I am teaching. And even though I'm going to, hit pause, upload this to YouTube, put it in the online class in just a minute, while I'm doing it, it feels like teaching. So I get some self-actualization. And my sense is you may not like seeing your talking head in the corner, or your face right in the middle of the screen. But once you get over yourself and realize that, look, your students are seeing you in a live class, they really want to see you. Even if your hair's messy, you can obviously tell I am not scripting my screencasts. I do them off the cuff. I mean, I do once in a while stop and restart. But, I think students really appreciate getting the real me. And that means my stupid jokes, getting to see my office behind me. Students are going to wonder, what's that monkey doing up on Eric's shelf or whatever. I mean, this is a way for me to Carrie has a great sense of humor. She's often, her sense of humor comes through in these screencasts. So we do midweek updates. We do feedback to students. People are using people are using screencasts to do feedback to students. People are using screencasts to do lectures, right? So if you have a PowerPoint and you simply screencast yourself clicking through the slides of your PowerPoint and talking about them just like you would in class, I mean, that's a great way to do a screencast. Anything you want to demonstrate in an online class, you can do via screencast. I don't have time to show you, but if you're interested, I'll certainly send it to you. In our online class, this is an English 121 class, students have to do database research, right? They have to do research of academic journals. They have to use online databases. They have to do it effectively. And we cannot take our online students to the library to allow one of the librarians to give them a lesson on how to use databases. Can you imagine typing up directions for how to use databases for students? Probably not the easiest way for students to learn. How does Carrie teach students how to use library databases? She does a series of screencasts where she literally goes into the library database, right? She's actually doing it. She's showing students, where do you click? What do you type? Here's a search term you might use. What would you get if you use the search term? How do you do citations? And what we found, maybe not amazing, every single student in our online class, after they do that unit on database research, they're doing that in an activity just exactly like the one you're doing now. Every single student knows how to use the library databases. They all find relevant articles. They all put them in their paper. They all cite them, not 100% properly. The online database activity is more effective than the face-to-face database activity, right? So screencasting is really powerful if you want to show people how to do things. So I've talked a lot. I'm going to close out this last part of Unit 2 by offering you some suggestions. First of all, what I'd like you to comment on, if you're using screencasts, send one to me, or paste the YouTube link to one of your screencasts in the text box. You probably already have some screencasts. If you do, give me an example. If you would allow me to share your example, let me know that too, and I'll share them out. I'll put them in the content area. If you have never done screencasts, but you would like to, why don't you take a little bit of time to talk about what would you like to do in terms of screencasting in your class? What use or uses would you find for screencasting in your class? If you're not doing screencasts and you don't want to, why not? I mean, what is it that's holding you up? What if I told you, and it may not be true, what if I told you that the number one easiest thing you could do to make your class better and to let your students know you care and to engage with your students would be to do a 3 to 5 minute screencast once a week with your face on it, right? What if that were true? I happen to think it probably is true, but I can't prove it. But what if it were true? Would you do it? And if so, what would you do for that 3 to 5 minutes, right? I mean, what would you do? If you were going to do one thing with screencasting to make your class better, what would it be? A couple other things you can write about. What do you think this course would be like without the screencast, right? What if this were just a whole bunch of text and I was asking you to answer questions, or I was trying to run this workshop without screencasts? Would it be as good? Am I doing too many? You can talk about that too. Lastly, I'll say in the content area, you're going to find a whole bunch of resources. You're going to find that written guide to screencasting, a screencast guide to screencasting, and a whole bunch of sample screencasts that I already have permission to use if you want to get more of a sense of the sorts of things people are using screencasting for. If you've never done screencasts, I will challenge you to use my guide to screencasting on your own, create a screencast, upload it to YouTube, and send me the link. You'll get extra credit, right? Won't count for anything. You'll get my adoration, and I'll be really proud of you. So I'm almost 20 minutes in. Wow, I went way too long, which is easy to do in Screencast. So thank you for completing Unit 2 of the online teaching workshop. And once you complete this unit, I'll give you access to the discussion area. And please feel free to work with me one-on-one on any of the things you learned in Unit 2. Thanks a lot.